Hello, my friends, and welcome to an exciting one. Today, we are going to learn how to create this kind of bottles, this kind of shapes with Blender. We're going to learn how simple and easy it is to create this kind of shapes with modifiers. We're going to play with our lights, our materials, and other cool stuff along the way. So let's go. So as usual, I'm going to start and create everything from scratch. So let's hit on our general to create our new file, and then we get our default cube and then our light, which we are not going to need for now. So select both of them, and I'll hit on X to delete all of them from our scene. So as you can see, you can click, if you check this corner, you'll be able to get all the shortcuts I press in case you miss something. So I'll do Shift A, and then let's add in our first object, which will be our cylinder, right? So let me pop this up. We are going to go with 32 vertices, and then maybe we can decrease our radius a bit like this, and then maybe decrease the depth too as well. So something like this is okay. Let's do Ctrl+A, and then let's apply our scale like this, right? So next, let's jump into edit mode and then create our nice shapes. So I'll jump into edit mode with tab, and then I'll hit on this to go to my edge select mode. And then first, let's create a couple of loop cuts, right? So we'll do Ctrl+R, create a loop cut right in the middle, right? But this is not what we want. We want one loop cut here and then another one here, but then we want them to have the same distance from top to bottom, and then bottom to top like that. So to get that, we do Ctrl+B to create bevel, so that we bevel that loop cut into two like this, right? Now let's create another one just like the first one, Ctrl+B, then we create an extra loop cut like this, right? So next, we are going to select every other edge in the middle. So we select this edge, shift selects these edges all around our shape, right? There's an easier way of doing it. So we go to our wireframe mode. You don't necessarily have to go to your wireframe mode, but to be able to select everything, even the stuff at the back, we go to our wireframe mode, and then we click and drag to select this entire edge loop like this. Then we go to our selects, we go to checker the select, and then Blender will automatically deselect every other edge like this, right? So we do S for scale, then we scale them inside like this. Nice. Let's go back to our solid shading mode so that we can see what we have done so far. So far this is what we have done. Let's add in some subdivision surface, and then let's move ahead. So I'll tap out of edit mode, right click, shade it smooth like this. Then I'll go to my modifiers tab, add a modifier, generate, then we add in a subdivision surface modifier. So we have this, right? So let's go back into edit mode, and then let's select the rest of the shapes we didn't scale, and then let's make them sharper a bit. So as you can see, they are now looking so rough, so smooth. So let's sharpen them a bit. So instead of adding extra loop cuts, we are going to use edge grease for this. So I'll tab into edit mode, select one of these edges we want to sharpen, and then we go to our select once again, and then we go to select similar, then we select similar by length, right? So if you look around, it will select all the other edges we didn't scale. So we do Shift E for edge crease, then we crease it to 1. So if you see here, you see edge crease, and then it's set to 1. So you can decrease or increase the factor. So let's leave the factor to 1, right? Then next, we have something like this. Let's add in a couple of loop cuts to tighten our shapes. I'll do Ctrl+R, scroll my mouse wheel up, and then create like 5 loop cuts like this to tighten up my shapes like this. So our shape is taking form. Let's fix the top and the bottom part, right? So make sure I have my edge select mode active. I will alt click to select this top edge, and then hold shift alt, click, select the bottom edges as well, then control B for bevel. I'll scroll to add one loop cut, so we have 3 loop cuts, and then we bevel it to something like this, right? I'll tap out of edit mode, and then this is what we have. Nice, it's looking nice so far. So let's fix this bottom part. I'll go to my face select mode with 3, select this part, I for insert, and then I'll insert it up like this, and then I for insert again, then G to move it in like this. So I have something like this going on. We can do I to insert it once more like this. So tab out of edit mode, this is what we have. I'll now go into our modifiers tab, and then we add in a new modifier to deform, so that we can twist the shape to create our desired shape or desired form we are looking for. So I'll add in a simple deform modifier. So we go to modifiers, deform, and then we look for a simple deform modifier, right? So as you can see, it has deformed our shape, but it has deformed it in the wrong axis. So if you go to the properties here, we change the axis from X to Z so that it deforms it around like this, right? So you can increase your angle to your liking to see how much deformity you want. I'll set mine to 90. It doesn't really matter. It will work based on the kind of deformity you want, like this, right? So we have something like this. If you want your edges to be even more sharper, you can increase your level of viewport, level of subdivision to 2 like this, so that we have something like this going on. Nice and simple. Next, let's add in a cap at the top. So I'll hit on tab for edit mode, select this, and then add in a couple of insects with I, so that it's inserted like this. Sorry. Next, tab out of edit mode, shift A, and then let's add in a new cylinder. So I'll go to cylinder, add in a new cylinder, G, Z, bring it to the top, then S, and then we scale it down in the Z axis, X axis like this. Then G, Z, bring it down. I'll hold Alt and then my middle mouse up to go to my X view, right, left orthographic view, or you can just come and click here. Then you come to your left orthographic view, G, Z, and then I can bring it down by holding shift so that I move it very slowly like this, right? So let's add in a couple of loop cuts and then put it inside a subdivision surface like we did to the one beneath it. So first I'll right click and then I'll shade it smooth. Let me just shade it flat for now. And then I'll do Control A to apply my scale, tab into edit mode, hold Alt, click to select the top and then the bottom like this. Then we do Control B to add in a bevel, just as we did to the other one. Tab out of edit mode, then we select the shape. Shortcut for adding subdivision surface, Control+2. To add in subdivision surface with 2 levels, you can do Control+3 if you want to increase the level, or Control+1 if you want to decrease the level. So I'll leave it at Control+2, right click and then shade it smooth. So we have something like this. Let's add in a little bit of detail at the top. So tab into edit mode, go to our face, select I for insert, and then I for insert, I for insert, and then we can do G, C to bring it down, and we can insert it last one more like this, right? And then we can select this entire edge ring like this, and then we can do E, then we can bring this up a little, right? So we have something like this for our top of the cap. So that's it for the modeling part. Let's quickly move into adding some materials and then see how we can play around with some lights, some gobos, and then we do our final render. So to add in with our materials, let's quickly set up our scene as we usually do. So I'll drag to bring this up here, and then I'll add in a new workspace here. So I'll bring my cursor here, drag to create a new workspace like this, right? So another quick trick, you can just right click. So if I want a vertical split, I can just click on it and then drag my mouse wherever I want. I can release it. So if I want to close this, I'll bring it to the middle, right click, and then I'll do join area, and I'll easily be able to join, because sometimes it doesn't work the way you want. So that's another cool way of handling splitting and then joining off your scenes. So next, let's hit on our camera, scroll, position our camera very well, and then let's hit on N, go to our view, and then we can lock camera to view so that our camera will not be moved, but now we'll be able to move and position our objects in the scene, right? So next, let's change our render engine from EV to cycles. Let's change it from the device from CPU to GPU compute, right? You can decrease your viewport sampling, max sampling, if your PC cannot handle. So you can go with something like 100 for quick render preview if you want. I'm going to leave it at the default, so I'll go with 1000 because my PC can handle. So now I'll hit on this to go to our render view so that we can see what's happening. So I'll change this viewport here I'll change this viewport to our shader editor, and then I'll quickly add in an HDRI. So I'll change this from object to world. Let me scroll it up, select this background, and I'll do Ctrl+T to add in an environment texture to the color, right? So I'll hit on open, and then I'll locate where I've saved my HDRIs. You can easily get some from online if you search for HDRIs. So download it into a location and then just double click it, and it will be added. It will provide lighting to your scene like this, right? So now let's select the object, then let's change it from world to object. Then let's add in our materials to the object. So with the material, this object selected, I'll just click on new to add in a new material, right? If you're using the older version of Blender, this might change a bit, but we are just going to play around with a few settings here and there, not much. So first, let's change the base color. You can change it to any color you want, obviously. I'm going to go with this color right here, and then let me just zoom in so that we can see what we are doing. Then I will decrease my roughness a bit to something like this, right? And then there's a new feature here which is called coat. I think in the older versions it was clear coat, but then they've changed it to coat. So I'll increase my weight to 1, and I'll be able to add in a coat with a different color like this, but then I'll reinforce the older color. So I'll add in a bit of a color like this. Now I'll decrease the roughness of my coat so that my material is not all that shiny, like all shiny like this. I'll just decrease the roughness a bit, so it's looking nice, right? So next, let's plug in some noise into our normals so that we create a little bit of some subtle bumps here and there, just to add to the reality, the realism of our material. So to do that, first I'll just click and drag here, and then I'll search for bump that we will use to plug into the normal, right? And then we'll search for, we're adding a couple of nodes. So first we search for our noise, so we are going to input a noise texture to play around with the bump, right? And then next we will add in a color ramp. Sorry, Shift A, search, Shift A, search, and then color ramp here, right? So we can plug in the factor into the factor, and then the color into the heights, right? So we have something like this. So let's plug the vector here into our texture coordinates. Like this. Then let's change it from generated to objects, so we have something like this going on for us. Let's increase the scale up, so let's increase it very up, so we have something like this. Let's increase the details, then just play around with it and then find what works best for you, right? So as you can see, we have something like this. Next, let's just play around with our color ramp so that our noise is not all that hard. So we can click here and bring this up, and this is what we get. So let's leave it like this. Then let's decrease the strength so that it's there, but then it's barely visible, but then it's still there. All right, so we have these little bumps. That adds to our realism. So you can see it's not like 100% smooth, it's there. So let me just remove the distortion and increase the strength a bit. Yeah, so we have our noise, it's there, but then it's barely visible, right? Just to add into the realism of our material. So next we select this, hold shift select, then Control plus L, and then we'll link our material. So we'll use the same materials for the cap. Right, so that's it for our material. Let me just position these notes a bit. So I'll call this for material 1. So we can just leave it, or you can rename it to any name you want. So next, let's just create a duplicate. So I'm going to create 3 duplicates, and then we set up our scene, and then add in our custom lights, and then we render. So let's do Control S for save, and then I'll save it as bottles, and then I hit on save to save my final blend file, right? So next, let's just select these two. Let's select this and then select this as last, and then we do Control P, and then we parent this to this, right? So now if we move this will move, the cap will move along with it, right? If you don't, let me just move the cap down a bit like this. So let's create 2 duplicates. So I'll select these 2, then Shift D, I'll create 1 duplicate, Shift D, and then 2, right? So I'll quickly change the colors of these 2 duplicates. So I'll select the first one, material 1, I'll hit on these 2, and then I'll create a new material of this material, of the old material. Then I can change the color to something I want, like this. Then I'll select this, Control L, then we link material so that both of them share the same material. Then I'll select this one again, this and this one, and then I'll hit on this to create a 3rd material, and then quickly change the color to whatever I want. Do the same thing I did for this, Control L, and then link material so that these ones too will share the same material. So we have quickly duplicated all these 3 materials with different colors. So next, let's quickly set up our scene. So I'll select everything, then I'll hit on M, and then I'll create a new collection, and then I'll name this collection as bottles, right? So now if we come to our scene here, you will be able to see that we have a bottles collections that we can easily toggle on and off. So for the meantime, let's toggle it off, and then let's set up our scene. So we do Shift A, and then let's add in a plane, S to scale it up, right? You can position it inside my camera well. So S to scale it up even more, and then we can do Control plus A to add in, to apply our scale, tab into edit mode, and then we can start editing our scene, right? So I just want to add a little bit of dynamism. I'll go to my edge select mode, select this edge here, I'll do E to extrude, and then X like this. So I'll extrude it like this, then E to extrude, just to create this kind of steps. So we can do E and then extrude it up like this. So we have something like this, right? If you look into your camera, you have something like this. So we tab into edit mode. This is what we have. Next, let's create a couple of platforms that we put our bottles on. So I'll do that using the mesh cube. So I'll add in a cube, can easily scale it down. And then let's go to our front view, GZ, then bring it up, maybe S to scale it down. Please have fun, play around with it. Just create any platform that you see works best for you. There's no right or wrong answer at this point. So I'll just quickly go Shift D. I'll do G, then I'll bring it down until it's touching the bottom part of our plane, right? I'll quickly create a duplicate, Shift D, then bring the duplicates at the back, do S, and then scale it on the Z axis like this. Then GZ, bring it up to something like this. Then I'll create a duplicate from this one, Shift D, bring it here, hit here to go to the top view. Then I will move it G to approximately somewhere here, right? Then maybe I can do S, then scale it down a little bit. Then GZ, bring it down like this. Nice and simple. So we have this kind of 3 platforms here. So let's unhide our bottles, and then let's position each of these 3 bottles, each of them on one of the stands we created. So I'll select this first one, G, then bring it up. Nice and simple. Select the second one, GZ, bring it here, let's just trying to position it. So if you want it to be easier for you, you can turn on your gizmos here. Where is it? Is it here? Yeah, you can turn on your move gizmo here so that you can easily move it and position it as you see fit, like this. So you can take your time and then position it nicely like that. So the last one, let me bring it quickly. Position it on the platform like this, right? We have something like this, right? So we can always position our camera. We could Control S for save. And let's change the size of our camera, the resolution of our camera from 16:9. So I'll go here and I'll change this to the X to 1080 so that we have a square like that, right? So we can easily position our camera in our scene like that. So let me select my camera and then let's change the angle from 55. So go to camera properties, change the focal length from 50 to, let's say, 90. So I have a very long focal length like this. So we can easily position our objects in our scenes very nicely. So we can select and then scale it up. Then Control A to apply our scale like that. Right. So let me move this to this side a bit so that everything is properly placed into our scene. So next, let's look at how we can creatively use lighting, right? So let me just bring this forward a bit like this. You can always play along. So let's add in our custom lights and then we can finally go ahead and click render, right? So we can add in an extra detail by adding in some bevels to smoothen out these edges, right? So I'll select this, then I'll go to my modifiers tab, go to generate, and then I'll choose my bevel to create a bevel. Let's increase the segment to 3. Then we can decrease the strength of our bevel to something like this. Then we can right click and then shade it auto smooth, so we have a very smooth beveled edge like this. So we can select these two and then finally select this, and then we can do Ctrl+L, and then we can copy modifier so that all of them will copy the modifier from this. And then I'll select my backdrop, and then let's bevel these sharp edges as well. And then hold Alt select, Ctrl+L, and then we copy our modifier so that it has this smooth bevel as well. So next, let's add in our lights, and then we can render. So I'll go to world, now unplug this for a minute so everything will go to dark. Then we add in our custom lights. So let's do Shift A, and then let's come to our lights, and let's add in an area light first. So I'll bring this up, then I can scale this up like this. Let's bring it to the side, this side, and let's point it towards our objects. Let's increase the size, the power to, let's say 100, or let's say 1000 and see, right? So we have our first lights coming in. So we can do S to scale it up even more. So the art direction is obviously in your hands. You can play around with it, the lighting, to see what you can come up with. So this will be our first light here. You can obviously scale this on the y-axis like this. Just play around with it. Then I'll add in another light from this side. So the next light I'm going to add, going to be Shift A, light. Then let's try and add in a gobo. So we do a spotlight. Let's bring it up to here. Then G, let's move it to this side. And then let's point it towards our objects like this, right? Towards our objects like this. Then let's increase the power to 100. Then we are going to use our spotlight to create the gobo. So if I hide the first aerial light like this, you can see what the spotlight is doing. So let me increase the power to 1000. I'll decrease it very soon, right? So you can see we have a spot, a very sharp light spot showing a spot, and then creating some hard shadows here. So we are going to use this to create the gobo, or the nice lighting on top of it. Basically, we are going to give it a texture so that we have an overlay of texture on top of it. This is how we used to create the windows effect and other blocking effects you see in some renders. So let's try and duplicate it here. So with the spotlight, it has, you can obviously increase the size or decrease the size of the spot. With the spot size, you can increase how smooth the edges are, so the blend, with the blend, and then you can increase the radius, which shows how soft the light is with the radius, right? So with our spotlight selected, let's hit on use node, and then we can change this from world to object. Then we have a node input setup for us for the light, right? So let's add in a texture. Let's add in an image texture to this, a black and white image texture, and then everything will work. So I'll select my emission shader, then I'll do Ctrl+T to bring this image texture setup, right? So I'll go to open, and then I'm going to add in a black and white image that you can use, right? So we are going to add just a black and white image. So any black and white image that you plug into this site will work. So I'll go to my downloads, then I'll choose this palm image. So it's just a black and white image. So I'll just select it and then hit on open image to add it into our scene. So if you can see, let me decrease the radius and then it will be very clear. So you can see it's just the image on top of our color, right? So I'm just overlaying the image on top of the light. So it's like the light is passing through the white parts of the image and then the darker part of the image is blocking the light. So now to make it look smoother and more nicer, we can just decrease the radius, increase the radius so that it looks more smooth like this. Maybe increase the blend, right, so it looks nicer. And then let's just unhide our first light we created, and then we'll have something like this. You can obviously move it around to something nice that you want. You can bring it, you can bring it closer, obviously. So just play around with it. You can search for gobos online and then you'll be able to find a lot of cool gobos you'll be able to use. So I'll go with something like this, nice and beautiful. So next, let's just select this background and then add in some basic material. Let's make it a bit darker, maybe add in a little bit of color like this, and then let's decrease the roughness, make it a bit harder, so we have something nice like this going on for us. So next, I think we are done. The next, all of the rest is up to your creativity. So you can obviously add in some more lights. So I'll do Shift D, then bring in an extra light to this side, just to touch this side, and then decrease the power to something like 100, just to create some fill for this side, right? You can play with the camera. You can try different camera focal length. So let's select your camera. Where's our camera? Then we can play with the focal length, maybe change it to 85. Just play around, let's say 70. And then see what you get, right? So let me position my the way I want. So lastly, we can add in a motion blur. No, we can add in a depth of field, So select our depth of field, select, and then let's select this first object to make it our focus object. And you can decrease the f-stop to create a nice shallow depth of field. So we'll be focusing on this object every time. So let me position it well into our scene like this. And then once you're done, you can check your render properties here, check your color management, maybe increase the look. You can go with a high contrast, so I have something nice like this. Medium contrast is fine, so I'll go with medium contrast. Do Shift S for save, and then we go to our render, then we go to our render image to render our final image. Thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. It's my friend, and see you on the next one. You try as much as possible. Thanks for the support you guys are putting out. You try as much as possible to be as consistent as possible. New tutorials are coming up. We have some shading tutorials in the way. We have some geometry notes tutorials as well. So stay tuned, subscribe, and see you on the next one. It's my friend, and peace out. So this is the final render. As you can see, you can quickly go to your image, save, and then you can save your final render. Bye, my friends. See you on the next one. Peace out.